vacillated back and forth as to whether or not to make the following comments. It's unusual for a board member to make comments about someone who speaks during the public comment section of our meetings each month. But the speaker that spoke at our last meeting was so egregious in his comments about the board in particular that I felt someone needed to respond. These are my thoughts. I do not speak for the entire board, but I suspect that many will share my feelings. First, let me share with you the Webster Dictionary of the word hypocrisy. The practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Hypocrisy. In a March 22nd email to Superintendent New, AFT President Ed Allen wrote, "It's a defining moment for you, and I hope that you will see this as an opportunity to build bridges and bring people together." Build bridges and bring people together. That same night, this board voted to encourage Mr. New to find employment somewhere else. Afterwards, when the meeting was over, Mr. Allen shook my hand and that of fellow board member Justice Ellis, saying, "It's a new day," and he looked forward to a better working relationship with the board. That's an exact quote. Just a few days later, sadly, Mr. Allen reverted to his old antagonistic ways and went on a tirade against former Superintendent New and the board, and yet another tired interview with a compliant local media. Just in case someone missed the story, he repeated it almost verbatim during the 3-minute public comment portion of our last meeting. His denouncement of New and derogatory comments about his selection by the board were boorish, tired, and frankly unnecessary. A wiser man might have declared victory and gone home. It's apparent that Mr. Allen has an odd way of building bridges and seeking a better relationship with the school board. His actions that night they do bring up some very interesting questions, though. Why did he level a barrage of petulance and poison about Mr. New when the superintendent wasn't even here to defend himself? Those actions suggest Mr. Allen's actions were cowardly at best. His charges leveled against the board that night are also curious. Each school board member runs for public office at great personal time and personal expense. In selecting New, we interviewed dozens of candidates from all over the country in a series of day-long interviews. These were all day Sunday for several Sundays in a row. And they were very thorough. And of the candidates that we interviewed over that process, we finally narrowed it down to 10. To 10, then to 5, finally 3, then 2, and the final 2 was very difficult. We fully vetted both candidates before selecting New. I guess our inexcusable mistake was not then consulting with Mr. Allen, because frankly, he acts like he knows everything. My experience this past few years of listening to his harangues that each month is that his mouth is obviously larger than his brain. When he finishes spewing his often baseless and angry diatribes, that generally the 3 minutes leave us dumber than when he began speaking. But but who is this man who knows so much about running the district? He's the leader of the local AFT, which is affiliated with America's great educational organization, the Teamsters. As president of the local AFT, he would have you believe he speaks for all teachers. In fact, his organization only represents 36% of teachers. And that number, interesting enough, is shrinking every year. That suggests his job must be about as much fun as being the captain of the Titanic. Mr. Allen is a relic from the past, when labor was an important component of American society. The percentage of union membership in this country dropped to a new low in 2014, extending a decades-long decline for the labor movement. But rather work to improve his own house, he prefers to cast affronts and insults at others. In 1983, the first year the Bureau of Labor Statistics conducted an annual survey, national non-membership was 21%. I'm sorry, union membership, 21%. That rate dropped to 6.6 in 2014. Demographically, the largest percentage of union members are found those closest to retirement. That has to be a scary thought. Of course, many southern states barely have any union membership at all. But let's take a look right here at our district for some numbers. In 2006, AFT had 1,538 members, or 62% of the total population, 62%. In 2016, AFT membership had dropped to 1,052, only 36%. Today, non-union teachers represent over one-half of the total number of teachers. And while the AFT bargains on behalf of all three unions, it only personally represents 36 of the teachers, 36%. That's the kind of trend I think would keep a union president awake at night, rather than coming up with insults for this board and a former superintendent. Like most labor unions, Mr. Allen's organization has two basic underlying goals. First, improve compensation. That is something that everyone can agree on. We all agree teachers should make more money. They form the bedrock of education in America, and everyone should support the concept of better compensation for teachers. The second goal is a little trickier, and that it gets into workplace attitudes and things like that, including working fewer hours. It's interesting that our highest performing charter schools do not have any AFT presence. None, zero, zip. I wonder if that can be just a coincidence. I was married to a teacher. I can assure you she worked long hours, as do most teachers. But if one drills down to the surface, as a well-known educator recently pointed out to me, you'll find out that many teachers only teach to the contract. Only teach to the contract. That expression means they do as the contract with the district specifies and are not obligated to do anything more. Certainly, many do exceed that. But by law, by the contract, they can go home at a certain time and they don't stay. Personally, I think urban kids need more hours of instruction, not less. And there's the rub. Mr. Allen represents teachers. I suspect that much of his bluster is a simple way of showing his diminishing membership that he's out there slugging away for their rights. That is why he's never met a microphone he didn't like or passed a chance to grab some ink on the local paper. His job is at stake, so he wants to get his name out there. This board, however, represents the taxpayers of Oklahoma City, as well as the 44,000 students enrolled in our district. I know for a fact that each of my fellow board members has a strong commitment to those kids and deserve respect that is seldom coming from Mr. Allen. He doesn't seem to care one whit about kids. His only interest is collecting dues each month. That might explain why his meetings, when he walks up to the microphone, he resembles somebody who's just swallowed a lemon. This is an unhappy man. I see his face all the time. I'm the closest one to him. I challenge anyone who attends our school board meetings on a regular basis to point out when Mr. Allen is smiling. This suggests his job is pretty much a thankless one. And since his livelihood depends on perpetuating the union, well, he has good reasons to have stomach problems. In his latest efforts to demean, defame, and discredit the board, he didn't even have the courtesy to excuse the two board members who weren't seated at the time that the decision to hire Mr. New was made. That oversight is inexcusable, and he owes them an apology for his outburst at the last meeting. Remember, this is a man who has not stood for election to public office. He was not appointed by the mayor, the governor, or anyone else to run the school district, but he loves to tell us how to do our job. He is simply an old-fashioned, self-appointed arbitrator of what is right and wrong in his mind, and he doesn't mind sharing it with everyone, even those of us who put in lots of hours working for the school. Perhaps his vast insight comes from his distinguished career as an educator. Oh, wait a minute. I understand his total teaching career spanned a whopping one semester. It must have been a heck of a semester. It's also important to note that the district worked with 5 different unions. 5. Only one president of those 5 has ever appeared at this board that I can remember. Only one. I wonder what the other 4 members don't know that he does. Nobody but Mr. Allen has come up and complained about the superintendent or the board. 5 unions, only one person has the audacity to come up on a regular basis and blow steam our way. The word I get from the people at the school board is that negotiations with each of those 5 units went swimmingly this year, no problems. The discussions were professional, respectful, and concluded on record time. Why would anyone want to poison the well by addressing this board at the last meeting in such a disrespectful way? What is there to gain and what's there to lose? A lot to lose. In my time on the board, I've heard a lot of interesting comments made to us, some of which we're responsible for, some that are not. We can't really fix a hole in a roof, for example. We can encourage the superintendent to find somebody that can. Most of the things that Mr. Allen leveled at us are none of his business, frankly.
Bob?
I'm wrapping it up.
Okay.
Wrapping it up. In closing, Mr. Allen is an obsolete man, a relic from the past when labor needed a powerful advocate. However, his actions reveal a man that is neither powerful, relevant, or astute. The big question remains, Will the AFT president actually work to build bridges and seek improved relations with the board as he stated? Is he willing to get off his soapbox and focus on the things his membership really care about, and that's their working conditions and how much they're paid? Or will he simply resort to a merchant who deals in negativity and fosters an ugly us versus them mentality? It'll be interesting to watch. The choice will tell us much about the man. My father used to remind me that you never have to apologize for anything you don't say. Sometimes I should take his advice better. And as someone once said, who's a writer like I am, words do matter. Thank you.
Okay.